listener production.
Hey, Chris Spyrou with you. Happy Friday and welcome to The Briefing. Well, the price of gold is popping off at the moment, and while hundreds of people are hitting up dealers right across the country, others are heading to old mining towns to try their luck.
Who doesn't like the idea of being a poor man and having a skill where you can go out into the hills and at the end of the day come back with actual treasure in your hand?
That deep dive into how some Aussies are trying to cash in on our modern-day gold rush is coming up in the second half of this episode. First, though, let's get into the headlines with Tara Cassidy. It's Friday, the 17th of October.
Hey Chris, and to you listening, we're starting in the US where Donald Trump has had a busy few hours in the lead up to his White House meeting with the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. This morning, he's hopped on a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss ending the conflict between the two nations amid threats from Moscow that further American support for Ukraine could damage US-Russia ties. In posts to Truth Social, the US President says he and Putin had a lengthy conversation that was good and productive, and that they will soon meet in Hungary to try and bring the, quote, inglorious war between Russia and Ukraine to an end. Here's White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt from earlier this morning.
It lasted more than 2 hours. There were various issues that were discussed. President Putin congratulated President Trump for solving the conflict in Israel and Gaza and bringing peace back to the Middle East. And the president feels like great progress was made on this call.
Now, this phone call comes as the US has been seeking to put more economic pressure on Russia to end the war, and actually hours after Trump said he received assurances from India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi that the country would stop buying Russian oil.
This is a war that should have never started, but it's a war that Russia should have won in the first week, and they're going into the fourth year. And I want to see it stop. So I was not happy that India was buying oil. And he assured me today that they will not be buying oil from Russia. That's a big stop.
And a little note there that the US government has actually imposed 50% tariffs on goods from India, which Trump has said in the past is punishment for buying Russian oil and weapons. He then went on to tell reporters that his next goal is to get China to do the same to stop buying Russian oil. So a little bit of context as to why this matters. It's because oil and gas are Russia's biggest exports, and its biggest customers at the moment include China and India. And it's this ongoing trade that's essentially helping Russia continue funding its war efforts.
Yeah, and like we mentioned, all of this comes as Donald Trump prepares to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky tomorrow, where he'll be asked for further military support, including permission to use long-range missiles to strike Russia, which is something the administration has blocked so far.
Terrifying footage of a brazen daylight attack in Melbourne's been released, showing a young woman being stabbed by a stranger on her walk to work. The incident happened 2 weeks ago near the busy CBD's Little Bourke Street, with the woman having just left her apartment minutes earlier.
The CCTV vision shows a woman running up from behind before tapping 36-year-old Wan Lai, and when she turns towards the attacker, the woman stabs her in the chest before running off. And you then see her fall to the ground before a bystander runs to her aid, and she was actually taken to hospital with a punctured lung. And Lai's sister told Nine that it's really left their family in shock.
It's not right. It should be safe to walk alone.
Luckily, Wan Lai is now back home and recovering, with the attacker arrested and charged, due to front court on a number of charges, 2 counts of intentionally causing injury and committing an indictable offence. But the part that's frustrated many, Tara, is that this alleged attacker was actually out on bail at the time, and that issue, bail laws as well as overall knife crime, has been a massive topic in a number of states of late, particularly in Victoria as well as Queensland.
Yeah, it has, and for good reason. Like here in Queensland, for example, we've had a number of really horrific attacks. There was a break-and-enter where a pregnant woman was stabbed to death, and one of the offenders involved was out on bail at the time. And there was another case where a young couple expecting a baby were allegedly rammed down by a youth criminal in a car, also out on bail, and it caused huge uproar in the community here, and likewise in Victoria, where there has been other cases where offenders have been out. It's just this ongoing issue, and I think in these cases we're seeing the judicial system failing. While the decision to let them out might be allowed under the law, it's certainly not meeting community expectations. So that to me says we need legislative change.
Popular recycling scheme Containers for Change has been accused of corruption, bullying, harassment, conflicts of interest and misleading conduct. A parliamentary inquiry says it's found troubling evidence about the way the scheme operates.
I am shocked and I am alarmed by the findings of this parliamentary committee report.
For those wondering, this is the recycling scheme where you collect your cans or empty containers and get 10 cents back for every one you drop off. This particular one, Containers for Change, runs in Queensland and WA specifically, but there's similar ones around the country. Now, those other ones aren't the ones being accused of wrongdoing here.
No, but basically the one that is, the LNP actually began to probe back earlier this year, Containers for Change in Queensland, and that was to try and look at the not-for-profit's efficiency. And it says while doing so, it heard from a number of whistleblowers and also found other evidence that the scheme's being manipulated by Australia's major beverage giants, Coca-Cola and Lion. Lion, by the way, makes some of our favourite Aussie alcohols, Forex and Han and other ones like that. And basically that they were doing this for their benefit because they're both founding members and on the board. Now, according to the inquiry, the scheme has generated $2.5 billion since it started in 2018, but just 36% of that has been returned to users, while less than 2% has been given to charities, sporting clubs, community organisations and schools, which basically shows that the scheme would have been overstating how much it does for the public, essentially.
Yeah, Coca-Cola and Lion are also being accused of using their power to manipulate things like contracts, obtain funds and customer data, while staff have also alleged they've witnessed market manipulation to secure sites at the expense of existing operators. A Lion spokesperson says it will consider the inquiry's recommendations, but highlighted the scheme is entirely funded by the beverage industry at a cost to them. Meanwhile, Coca-Cola denied having benefited from obtaining users' data or funds, while the LNP's now referred 10 matters to the Crime and Corruption Commission.
To London, where Indigenous leaders have met with the King to mark the 40th anniversary of the day the Australian government handed Uluru back to its traditional owners.
I now place in the hands of the Uluru Katachuta Aboriginal Land Trust the title deeds.
Now, this has been described as one of the most historic land rights decisions in our country's history, with the 9 Anangu elders inviting King Charles back to Australia to visit the site, which they say is sacred and importantly no longer treated as property of the Crown.
Yeah, and they met privately at the Australian High Commission in London, where Charles was presented with an acrylic painting and watched a traditional performance as well as a film marking the anniversary. And look, the meeting does come a year after the King actually emphasised the importance of Indigenous culture in an address to Parliament House in Canberra, and that was during his visit to Australia with Queen Camilla, which was a visit that made international headlines not for that, but for this moment. So that was Senator Lydia Thorpe there, and while her comments did cause backlash at the time, with a lot of people saying it was disrespectful, there were also people on the other side of this that were really supporting her message, because for them it highlighted their views that the monarch is a symbol of colonisation and historical invaders of land.
Aussie brands have become a global sensation, with new data showing many of our locally grown labels are now some of the most sought after across the world. Australian-owned brands like White Fox, which is at the top of the list and has been surging in sales, was found in new data to have had 1.5 million people search for the brand on Google just last month, Chris, and its website was also getting around 216,000 visits every month as well, which is wild.
Yeah, and other names are among the mix, which include Sydney brand Pepper Mayo, Emco Beauty, activewear brand LSKD, and beloved giant aesthetic water bottles maker Frank Green, with parts of their success being put down to their clever use of influencers and digital campaigns, making their content go viral on social media time and time again. So whether you like it or not, expect more of this in your feeds.
I have literally got the most insane holiday shop, and I'm going to do a little haul.
Okay. Well, preparing myself for that. Meanwhile, it's it's not just the brands, but actually our overall Aussie style that has become well known as well, Chris. Apparently there were thousands of searches, up to 9,000 a month, just looking for Aussie style on Google. So from users around the world who just want to adopt our very aesthetic look.
I'm so sorry. What does Aussie style?
I don't know.
Exactly
Is it the boho? Is it the beachy? What is it? Is it Sydney ciders? I don't know.
Look, no further comment from me. But look, that is it for our headlines for today. Coming up next is my deep dive looking into our modern day gold rush, why Aussies are heading to old mining towns to have their luck at striking gold. Have a listen to that deep dive. It is coming up for you next. Well, here's a sentence Year 5 me would get a kick out of saying, we're living through a gold rush. In case you missed it, the price of gold is up by more than 50% in the past 12 months, and while it's hitting record highs, it's forecast to keep climbing until the end of the year, where it's tipped to stay well into 2026. Economists say it comes down to global jitters stemming from the US government shutdown, fears of a recession, and nervy investors looking for a safe place to stash their money. But right now, gold is sitting on just under $6,500 an ounce. That's 6.5K for something that weighs the same as a AA battery. And it's not news that's been kept quiet, with people queuing up right across the country from dealers in Sydney CBD to Perth's Mint just to get their hands on some, while others have been dusting off their pans and heading to old mining towns to try their luck. Jhob Drinkwater runs gold panning tours in a mining town in New South Wales, about an hour's drive north of Bathurst, and he joins me now from one of his paddocks. Jhob, welcome to the briefing. How's Hill End looking amid this modern-day gold rush?
The scenery in the middle of nowhere is getting a bit cluttered, which is good.
Really? When did that sort of start kicking off?
Look, I've been doing the gold panning tours in Hill End for the last 8 years now, and it was about 3 years ago I remember telling people that gold was $3,000 an ounce and how good that was. That was a pretty good number for gold to be at. And to think that it's only been 3 years since I uttered those words, and now that it's over $6,000 an ounce at the moment is mind-blowing, especially to the modern prospector or fossicker like myself. I don't consider myself being terrifically successful at finding gold, but because of the way the price is now, I don't have to find that much gold. And I'm pretty good at not finding that much gold.
Do you make a living out of the tours, Jhob?
I do. I make a living out of the gold panning tours, teaching people how to pan, and families and groups. I get them into the creek, and it is just a lesson teaching them how to pan and identify gold. But there's nothing odd about me being the gold panner of Hill End, because Hill End has always had a gold panner. It's always had a tour guide that's had somebody to be able to take families and groups of people and children into the creek and show them the basics of how to pan and how to find gold.
Yeah.
And now, after doing the tours for the last few years, I can truly say that the hobby itself has grown. A lot of fossickers or prospectors would refer to the gold game a little bit like the fishing game. I say to people, like, without the skill, you can't find the gold. You're often firing after a good hour of instruction.
When it comes to fishing rods, fishing line, bait, these are some of the things that the average person would know that you need to go fishing. What are some of the things you need to go gold panning?
Exactly. We've all got our toolboxes, and in the fossicker's toolbox, it's pretty simple. You've got your gold pan, you got your sample bottle, and then it's your weapon of choice. Whether, a bit like me, I like the pelican pick. That's just from my forebears in this area. And I've noticed another few fossickers like the long-handled shovel. The long-handled shovel can get down into other places that the pelican pick can't get to. And then there are other fossickers that just love crevicing. They swear by the spoon. I know one old fella that's found more gold with a spoon than I have with a pelican pick or a shovel. I guarantee you that. There are some crevices that are just packed full of gold, and they've got a young fella's name on it. That's for certain.
What's the most valuable find someone that you've taken on a tour has walked away with, or what's the most valuable find that you've come across in all the years that you've been panning?
It's amazing. Because I'm the tour guide, I seem to help other people find gold more than find gold myself. But when I get the chance to get out, I can't say I've had my fair share of luck with the pan. I've found 2 marble-sized specimens, pieces of quartz wrapped with gold around them. I've been lucky. I found 2 of them in my time. They're worth about $600-700 each, where one person in my tour once came over with a piece of quartz the size of his fist, and he had about a 5-gram nugget growing out the side of it. And on another occasion, I had somebody wash up an antique gold ring once with me on a tour, as we are right in the heart of the gold fields. So the place was littered with people back here in the 1800s. So it's not just gold you can find in our creeks. You can wash up the occasional coin or bit of jewellery or something like that.
I'm curious to know, with the market kind of booming at the moment and the value of gold climbing at the moment, have you seen that translate into the amount of people taking on your tours? I know we've just come out of school holidays, so ordinarily that would kind of be a busy period for the town, but how have you seen the town shift in the last few weeks?
Oh, gold has definitely impacted everybody in this area. There's always been a couple of old fellas in Hilland that have, I wouldn't have say lived off the pan, but definitely been quite avid hobbyists and found their own patches of gold, where now, it's like every second man and his dog is out here looking for some gold. We've only got 100-odd people in the Hilland township and area, and we are 100 kilometres away from any major town. We are a little bit isolated, and the road hasn't stopped. We are constantly getting caravans coming through. We are getting the hobbyists come through. Yeah, the place is booming. It's almost like we're having a little recreation of a gold rush in this small time right now, with the gold price jumping the way it is. And I will make this clear right now, I'm not a very good shearer. And in the hill end area, shearing and fencing and manual labour is really the go-to for work in our area here. So I still shear. I shear for Dad twice a year. Thank God he's only got 150-odd sheep, and that's more than enough for me. But I'd rather be in the creek any day with the family looking for gold than in a shearing shed, sweat my guts out wrestling a stinking sheep. And I take my hats off to those shearers, but I bet they'd like to be in the creek with me too some days.
Well, I mean, someone who's grateful that you were hit in the creek, I'm assuming, is your wife, because you actually panned for the gold that made your wedding bands?
I'm very proud to have that as a bit of an accolade. I went out. It took me a good 6 to 9 months, but gee whiz, I got onto some cracker spots. And I think that's the fun of your own personal gold journey, is that you start off playing with peanuts, but you play with enough peanuts in the gold game. By the time you turn around, you got a pearl. And I thought my woman was a pearl. I just wanted to put another pearl on her finger.
It's a wonderful story. I am. Before we let you go, I'm very curious to know, what are some of the people that you're speaking with at the moment that are coming and doing the tours at the moment? What are they saying their intention is with this gold? Do they plan on collecting it, melting it, selling it, just keeping it? What's going on?
A lot of people that come on my tours, they find gold, and it is a trifecta of decisions. A lot of them like to keep it. I obsess over gold. I just take it like a drag and I just hoard it and just look at it. Other people can turn it into jewelry. A lot of people do come out and say, I want to keep the gold, or I want to collect some gold to put it into some jewelry to add some meaning to it. And then I get a lot of hobbyists that are out there to learn how to collect up those tiny little bits of gold and put it away one day as a nest egg too. It's astronomical for me to think that 5 years ago, doing the gold panning tours, I'd have families and groups of people, and they would have found $5-10 of gold with me 5 years ago. And that gold in that little sample bottle would have only been $5 or $10. But now they could have $50 in that little sample bottle that they found with me 5 years ago. So I think also in today's standards, if they come out and they find $2 worth of gold with me, who knows what it could be worth in 5 or 10 years' time. It's astronomical to think just how much a tiny little bit of gold is worth in today's society. It's sending everyone nuts. I'll definitely agree to that.
Do you think it's a cost of living thing as well?
100%. Who doesn't like the idea of being a poor man and having a skill where you can go out into the hills and at the end of the day come back with actual treasure in your hand? But that's the skill, isn't it? To be able to go out and find money in the dirt.
Yeah.
Now that is a good life skill. So, yeah, there's a fantasy in that. And gold fever and the human mentality will definitely run with that.
What's your advice for those heading out at the moment amid this gold rush? You know, should they be expecting to find a few speckles? Should they be expecting to find some nuggets? Or what advice have you got for people?
Look, nuggets are very rare and very hard to find. My best bit of advice if you're starting out is do not get disheartened. Keep going. I heard another old fella say, find a rock bar. And when I'm struggling in the creek, that echoes in my brain. Find a rock bar. You find one speck of gold, that's a win. It means you're doing something in the right direction. Finding no gold is also a bit of a win because you're figuring out where not to dig. My best bit of advice is keep collecting up those specks because you will find a nugget. It is an eventuality in the gold game. You just got to keep chasing those little specks of gold.
Excellent. Job, thanks so much for joining us on The Briefing.
My absolute pleasure, Chris. Thank you very much for having me. And heavy pans, as they say.
That was Jhob Drinkwater speaking with me there. And that is it for this episode of The Briefing. If you enjoyed it or learnt something new, why not flick it over to a mate? And while you're there, leave us a rate and a review. I'm Chris Spyrou. I'll catch you next time.